But we've made our list node class, we've done the postfix, we still haven't done the stack and the queue though. So we're going to do that now. We're first going to start off with our stack. We're going to start our class the same way. It's going to be class stack, and we're using a generic type because we've used the stack in two things. We've used it in our evaluate, and we've also used it in our infix to postfix. Both of these are of two different types. So we have type character here, and then in the evaluate we have type integer. So we have to do the generic type for here too, as we've done with our list node, and we're going to do the same for our queue. Inside of our stack, because this is list node based, we are going to need to get our head, and we're going to make it private so that we can't manipulate it in any bad way. We're going to do private list node, remember generic type, and this is the head. And we also want to keep track of the size of our stack because we do have a size method, so we're going to make a private int size. We're then going to have a constructor for our variables, so public stack parentheses. We don't have any parameters for this though, and then inside of here we're just going to set head equal to null because at the beginning we don't have anything in our stack, and then our size is going to be equal to 0 again because we don't have anything in our stack. The first and probably easiest thing that we should deal with is the isEmpty method. So we're just going to have a public, and it's a boolean because this is true or false, and it's called isEmpty, and then we're not passing in anything here, and all we're going to return is if the size is equal to 0. So we're going to return size is equal to 0, and if our size is equal to 0, it's going to return true. That means it is empty. If it is not equal to 0, it's going to return false, meaning it is not empty. Next thing that we're going to tackle is the peek method. So we're going to return the head of the stack without removing it. Well, we'll do public. We do want to return something, and it is going to be the head. So public type t. We're not passing anything in, but we will have a return, and we are going to be returning the head dot data. That is the value at the head. Next thing we have to do is pop. So for pop, we are going to take the top of our stack, or the front of our list in this case, and return it, but we're also going to remove it. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a temporary list that is equal to the head of our other list. Then what I'm going to do is set our list equal to the head of our temporary list plus 1 index. So not the head of the index anymore, but it's going to be equal to the next one plus everything after it. And then I'm just going to return the head. So that is how the stack would work, and that's how it would work with list nodes. So first we need to create our actual class. It's going to be public. It's going to be returning a data. We don't know what this type is, so it's type t, and it's called pop. We're not passing in anything. We're going to create a temporary node. We're just going to have it as list node temp t. We're going to call it temp, and we're setting it equal to the head. So this is going to be equal to the head of our list that is passed in. Now what we want to do is set our actual head equal to the next value in it, but not erase anything. That's why we need this temporary value, because if we break a link in a list, we lose everything after that. So we're going to set our head equal to head dot next. And that is basically saying our head is going to be the next value and everything after it, but we're going to get rid of the head. And after we do this, we're going to do size minus minus because we have subtracted 1 from the size, and then we are going to return temp.data, and this will return the first value in our temp, which is the head, and the head's cut off now, so we've done our public pop correctly. Now we're going to be pushing some value into our stack or into our list. So it's going to be a public void because all we're doing is pushing. It's going to be called push, and as a parameter we are taking type data. We don't know the type, again that's why it is a t, and then we have our brackets. So now we can write inside of our method. I accidentally put back here, looking over that, it should be the front of the list. So when we push data into the stack, we are putting it in the front of the list, just like in pop we are removing it from the front of the list. That's how stacks work. We are going to create our temporary list first. We are going to have list node. We don't know the type, so it is generic. We're going to call this temp and set it equal to new node. We don't know the type again. It is generic, so we're going to have that in there. And then we're going to pass in the data value. but we also have to pass in our null value. I also put node here. This should actually be a list node. And that is how we would create our temp list. So after we've created this temporary list, we only have the data value in it. We only have this single one value. And after we have this value, we need the rest of this list. So what we can do is say temp.next, because this is the next value after the head value of our temp. Because remember, the temp holds the data as the head value, and we need to get the next value that's not the head. So temp.next is equal to the head. And the head is the head and everything else following it of the actual list that we have so far. Once we have that stored in the temp, we can put this back into our head because the head has to have everything in it. This is just a temporary list. We can say that we are overwriting our previous list with our current order. So we are going to do head is equal to temp. Just like that, it is overwritten. After we do all this, we're going to have to do size plus plus. And now we have pushed successfully into our list. We are missing one method still, and that is the size method. We are going to have to return the size. So since we are returning something, it's going to be an integer. So we will have public int size. We are not passing anything as our parameters, and we're simply just going to return size. And that is the size method. And we have finished coding for the stack class. So that is what the entire class will look like. We have our private variables, we have our constructor, we have this isEmpty method, we have the peek method, which returns without removing, we have the pop method, which returns the stack with removing. That's super key, it returns and removes. We have push, which pushes the data to our stack. And lastly, we have size, which will give us the actual size of our list. So that is the entire stack class. We've added it to the complete list with our list node and our postfix class, as well as our main driver class.